I'll speak in your language because we weren't even have the privy of hearing all those beautiful, inspiring lectures this morning. And I feel a little bit bad because everything is very center focused. I think I'm going to speak here because everybody was speaking over there, okay? So I have the biggest challenge. I mean, Mr. Robert gave me the biggest challenge. It's after lunch and everybody's tired and they're stuffed, you know, had all these lectures. He had all these inspiring millennials speak in the morning. And now he gives me the opportunity of being the first gray-haired, introducing the connected baby boomer generation. So this is one of the things we need to do. He's already created two silos, the morning silo of the millennials and the afternoon silo of the educated, connected ones. I'm going to be the bridge, guys, because the only success that we're going to have in my 30 minutes, which is usually a 2-day master class, is in how you could become a world-class digital leader. And this is a 30-minute snapshot. And my book was an antecedent of this. For the last year, I traveled 5 continents around the world, consulting with Fortune 500 companies, SMEs, small business enterprises, nonprofits, for-profits, really talking about the need to understand the integration, which is going to be one of our key words, the collaboration and the leveraging of this huge thing called the networked economy. And the networked economy, to me, has to be built on a very important element. And it's the integration of strategy and tactics with values. And Ms. Shagurika talked a lot about values and trust, which is going to be very core. So, build to last or gone too fast. Well, you can contemplate that. What does it mean to become a world-class digital leader? I'm going to take something from Steve Jobs. Taught me something in the book I read about him and all the readings. He says, steal from the best. So one of the best is General Electric in terms of digital transformation around the world. And Bob Kalanosi suggested, why don't you just talk to people what you know? So I'm going to talk about what I hear, what I read, what I see, what you do, and what they do. So that's sort of what the whole presentation is going to be about. So what's the challenges of the networked economy? One of the first things is there's a whole set of values which are new. Transparency, integrity. And transparency really rules because whatever we put on the net goes all over the net. You can't hide anything. So your values have to become out there, and it is very different for a society which I've grown up, which is very control-oriented, have to transform into one that's open and trusting and dynamic. It's a very big undertaking. The next area of challenge is the area of talent acquisition. Talent is the most important resource in this universe. How you leverage talent is going to be critical, and how organizations leverage the different generations. How many people are students here? Students. That's about 1/3. Ah, you're always a student, Mr. Velimir, okay? And how many people are millennials, less than 35? Okay. And how many people are the connected older generation? Okay. So I look at this dichotomy, or this trichotomy, is going to be the most important element in the future success of your businesses and your society and success in the networked economy. How you really understand and build bridges and honor and respect each other and really try to leverage each other's talents. And this is something which is really not known or understood very well. So it's dealing with 3 or 4 generations. We also, one of the other challenges is this whole question of if you don't digitize, you're not going to survive. And there's all the stories of Blockbuster in the United States, or Sony, which was a great, TV producer, hardware producer, and now, they're producing subparts for Apple TVs. So, what organizations are going to survive? How many people are going to become Nokias? or the Ericsson. Ericsson here is very big, but Ericsson in America is a defunct mobile carrier. So what's the brand we're talking about? The exponential use of technologies, clearly, we all know about that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. One of the most important elements is this new customer decision. Oh, boy, okay. Sorry. The new customer decision journey. How the millennials, which are going to be in the next 15 years, 75% of our workforce, how they process and make decisions different than we have made them in the past, and how the marketing really understands those different segments. The leadership in the new economy, I gave you a little handout, which I'll talk about at the end. It's a scorecard for being a world digital leader, and I'll share that with you as a takeaway. And the last point is what it means, what is the path to digital integration? And that'll be sort of a roadmap for the discussion. Here's a video which will encapsulate what some of the new challenges are.
In the 20th century, businesses relied on a physical infrastructure of transportation, lighting, cooling, stores, and offices. But today there's a second and even more powerful virtual infrastructure emerging. History suggests major shifts in our economic foundations often result in new business dynamics and new industry leaders. Thus, not all firms will make the transition, and the societal effects will be even greater. We call this emerging new digital foundation the Matrix, with a nod to the famous 1999 film. The Matrix encompasses the cloud, the web, mobile, and the Internet of Things, but this is just the beginning. The digital world is becoming pervasive, ever smarter, and even self-aware. Not as sci-fi robots, but as intelligent machines that automatically work with each other without human involvement. This ever richer set of digital services is becoming the economic foundation of our time. Industries are being restructured as both new and existing firms leverage these extraordinary capabilities. For example, traditional vertical industry-specific stacks are now being eroded by cross-industry horizontal matrix services. And it is this top layer of emerging awareness, intelligence, and virtual identities that will truly define the matrix business dynamic. While value chains are getting longer, more end-to-end, and increasingly customer-centric. Perhaps most importantly, profits are migrating to the new digital players who often play by different winner-take-all rules. You can't ignore the matrix or control it, but you can adapt to it if you accept that major disruptions in automotive, healthcare, financial services, and other industries lie ahead. Enterprise IT must become much more outside in and embrace this new digital reality. C-suite leaders need to understand they are no longer bound by the physical world with its old architectures. They need to take a jump into the world of key matrix players. Your company may not have been dramatically affected, at least not yet, but just as it would have been unwise for the business leaders of the 1920s to ignore the technology revolutions of that time, so today's business leaders must not ignore the digital infrastructure that is expanding all around us. The LEF can help your firm understand and prepare for this exciting new world. Visit our website to learn more.
So what are some of the questions that come out as an executive out of this kind of disruption and transformation which so many people are experiencing? Around the world, people are saying, well, how do we transition from what's called an OCO, old company, to a new company, to a digitally integrated organization? How do we do that? What's the roadmap? How do we adapt our business model, or in some people say, how do we Uberize our business? What are the initial steps in transitioning from a very siloed approach to marketing with PR and sales and so forth into a truly integrated digital strategy? And how do we work with millennials? And how do we build the bridge with the older connected generation? And how do we make it work? How do we deal with reverse engineering, reverse monitoring, and mentoring? And how do we leverage data to drive the customer experience? So what are you saying about this? Globally, 80% of executives say that digital is going to change the world. 50% of them know that they don't have the skill set, the management set, and the tools to do it. 34% don't feel prepared, and 21% of the leaders wouldn't call themselves a digital business. There's a really big discrepancy between what people say is going to change in the world and how they're really going to adapt and address it, because they don't have the tools. Currently, there's 1.7 million digital managers needed in the UK, and the same amount in the United States. It's reputed that IBM needs over 3 million digital managers globally. Who's going to provide that education and that understanding? The reason I'm here is because of Algebra College. Algebra College, in my mind, having traveled the world and looking for collaborators, has one of the most innovative digital marketing master's programs and digital leadership programs in the world. Now, you might say, why in Croatia? Why Nikola Tesla? Why? Why so many innovators and creative people have come here? And I'm here, this is the 4th time, because of the innovation and the creativity that your society has. So you could really be leaders out of a very small place in the world, but it doesn't matter in size, because look, Uber in 7 years, Airbnb in 7 years is now outfoxing Marriott with 2 million rooms versus 1.1 million rooms, only worth $25.5 billion in 7 years. That's not bad for a small little entity that grew out of nothing. So can Croatia, and so could Algebra College. So what are we saying here? We got the right priorities. We got vast challenges, but guess what? We ain't prepared. Typically, we are not prepared, and how do we get prepared? That's the real issue. So what are the challenges? The world has to be redefined from the outside to the in. We're used to looking from the inside and controlling it out. Boy, anybody over 50 years old having trouble with their weight? Anybody have any trouble with their weight? I have sometimes trouble with. Do you know how hard it is to go on a diet and change your eating patterns? Well, you can imagine how hard it is if you're a successful businessman or woman who've controlled your organization for 25 years, and this young millennial who was speaking this morning, this young man, your name is?
Boris.
Boris comes up and tells him, I got all the answers, buddy, and I'm right. And I could show you I'm right. And he is right. But he has to be humble and not arrogant. He has to figure out a way to build a bridge with humility, and the executive has to understand that he or she has to be less arrogant to be able to understand, to make that bridge to be successful. So the second thing, digital requires a high degree of collaboration. These are really soft words. They don't maybe fit in, analytics terminology and so forth, but maybe they're the keys to success. Collaboration is finding a way for agreement and finding a way to leverage each other's talents to make something better than it was before. And the last thing, it's not orchestration, but integration. Integration is finding a way to put all the pieces together, and all those things have to come together. So digital, to me, is one of the most misused buzzwords in the entire world. Digital maturity, digital transformation, digital this, digital that, digital experience. We're really talking about something special. Making a resource more information-rich and hyper-connected to create new sources of value. When you can show me, Boris, how you create new value in the customer experience and show the ROI to your senior executive, you will have achieved a lot. And in his or her terminology, that's what we need to do. And I'm sure that's what you're trying to do. But that's what we need to do. And in the same way, your senior executive has to be able to speak to you or the company you're consulting with and be able to communicate up and down till you come to agreement. So we have to recognize the priority of going digital, and it does not mean being digital. What is that all about? Well, the necessities of digital transformation are, we've come up with these 5 elements, and this is after a year and a half of traveling around the world and consulting with all these different organizations, and every organization says, I want a roadmap. So I sit in front of a $500 million company in Toronto, and this is automobile dealerships. The owner is from Dubai, and he says, Ira, I want to transform my company to be the role model for automobile dealerships in the future. I just spent $24.5 million on the Taj Mahal of automobile dealerships, and I wasted every penny on that, because the next one I'm going to build is going to be $1 million facility with no showroom and it's going to be concierge-oriented, it's going to be hospitality-oriented, and the money is going to be driven not from the sale of automobiles, but from what? Sale of parts and service. It's all about going to be customer service and trust and developing customer care. And that's where my money is going to be developed from, and I'm going to have to use a whole different algorithm and business model. So what's going to happen to the salesman, the automobile salesman? That's scary, because these 7 automobile salesmen from the dealerships that I was dealing with were making $250,000 plus bonuses, and that was the retirement fund for their families. What would you feel, sir, if you would take this young guy like Kaufman comes in and says, we're going to do digital transformation, and we're going to transform your company, and your whole 20 years is not going to be there? Would you feel threatened? You're damn straight you feel threatened. And they were threatened. And they froze. The entire audience froze, because they realized that they would have to give up something and they would have to create a new model. So we had to look at a way that we could deal with this not as quantum leap from an old company to a new company right away to this digitally integrated organization, but one that evolves and looks at the needs of these executives and brings them along so Boris and him could work together, okay, and creating a new future. That was what we had to do. And they are looking at doing that exactly that way. But instead of it being a 6-month situation, it's going to be a 2-year situation, because everybody has to be safe. So we came up with this little model here, which is a model which goes, it starts with a seminar, something like this, where we try to get agreement from all the executives and the millennials. And we deal with 40 or 50 people in an organization. And what it leads through is an idea, a pioneering value. We go into a discovery phase, which is an assessment. But our assessments are very digitally oriented. We don't look at static situations like the old SWOT analysis, the strength, the weakness, opportunities, and threats. But we look at how each one of those elements can be dynamically challenged by the digital format and the networked economy, and how you look at how you can create competitive advantage from each one of those elements in your SWOT analysis. And then this begins, as you begin discussing these elements, you have to evolve this new value-driven culture, this new people-centered culture. And we use people-centered because the employer and the consumer have to be inputs into the entire decision-making process. Often, you think about the consumer, if you're lucky. You don't even think about honoring and respecting the employers, and I mean men and women, and that's important. And then after we create this culture, and every organization that I've consulted with in the last 2 years have said, as the CEO would say, I want to really move this thing very quickly along, and I want to create impact and a digital transformation. And they come back and say, the people on the ground, the executives say, we need to build a new culture because we are not receptive as a team to understanding what the requirements are to be digital transformers. So they have to really reorient themselves and change who they are. So after we develop this culture, and then the most important aspect, we'll talk about it a little bit later, is this centerpiece. This centerpiece is the live organ for continuous innovation in the organization. This little centerpiece here is the change agent. This was really inspired by the senior vice president of GE, Beth Comstock, one of the most, for me, one of the most inspirational ladies I've ever met in the world. And I asked Beth, how in God's name do you create change at GE? A legacy company with all these things, a B2B company, really, really hard to do change. She says, we build it from the ground up. It's multi-generational, it's cross-functional. We take people from every function, we bring them in, we create a group of about 10 to 12 people. It has to be small enough and agile enough, and then we work with looking at the customer experience, being consistent with our corporate values, and driving data, and continuously looking at new projects, evaluating new projects, and working with each of the functional areas. And I said, what happens after you finish a project? She says, we sell the hell out of it. We go through the organization with all the resistances there are in HR and finance and marketing, and we show them how a digital project, which was collaboratively driven, which is change agent driven, will affect the organization in a positive way, and it's successful. So this center core is called Rapid Innovation or Digital Innovation Unit. We call it the Digital Transformation Accelerator. And then we go over here, as we're developing that and we're developing new strategies, clearly we have to begin looking at transforming the business model. And we'll go here, and then we're going to look at how data is going to transform. And the last element is how we're going to look at impact. And the impact is usually driven by KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. Well, we think that the new generation, the network generation, deserves something different than a KPI. And I'm going to call them an SPI, a sustainable performance indicator. Sustainable because if you look at the millennial generation, 70% of the millennials, which is going to be our future market in the world, 15 years, 70% of them will be millennials, they ask and they want to buy and purchase products which are from social, responsible, and sustainable companies. That's what they want to buy. So therefore, how could we not have indicators which are not going to be just profit-oriented? And this model over here, in this model, is built upon a quadruple bottom line, meaning profit, planet, people, and prosperity. So what does it really mean to become a world-class digital leader? And we went around the diagram, we talked about it's pioneering, values-driven, integrated, sustainable, and agile. Those are some of the core qualities. I'm going to go through them very quickly and show you a couple of videos. The first dimension, and these are all in your worksheet, so I'm just going to go through them very quickly. At the end, you'll be able to understand them. It means creating the future rather than managing the present, motivating ongoing learning and change, and initiating dialogue up and down the channel. And the importance in this whole transformation process is clearly there's going to be a lot of tension. The leader has to understand the tension and manage the tension of the opposites. The ROI between intuition and ROI, between collaboration and chaos, between formal power and informal power. The digital leader has to understand the opposites and manage them in a very constructive way. The next thing we're doing as we're going around that circle is try to develop value, a values-driven culture, which is going to look at the core values which we have in every religion and every belief system. If you look at integrity, service, responsibility, excellence, commitment, honesty, all these values, and why do we keep them in a boardroom locked up on a wall and we don't integrate them into our corporate structure and the way we manage our companies, and we respect one another. If we do that, and that's what's going to be expected from our next generation, we're going to have competitive advantage. So this culture has to be driven by these values, and this whole cycle of transformation has to be driven by the values. This is an example of how Nestle does it. So clearly that's a very quick understanding, but Nestle as a company, and I'm not condoning everything that Nestle does, but they do a lot of things which are really interesting in terms of digital marketing. They also have a social profile, which a lot of people in the world can question, which I do question as well. So everybody's not perfect. They're all on this journey to digital integration. The next element we talk is integration. It's how you integrate your vision, your capacities with all the media and your organization. I'm going to give you another example, and this happens to be of Nestle as well, which looks at a campaign which integrates culture and values in the Middle East. And look at the success it has in now using the digital culture to really expand that on a regional level.
Women in the Middle East rule in their kitchens, but at the same time,
Stay here
they
in
feel
the
trapped inside them.
About 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 7 minutes.
Now 8 minutes.
That's fine.
Maggie understood that these women are longing for new ways to express themselves and expand their horizons.
I'll speed it up.
And all they need is enough confidence and real women like them to
Sorry.
lead the way. So we gave them Maggie Diaries, the inspiring story of 4 housewives from different Arab countries together on a journey of culinary and cultural discoveries around the region. With an immersive online platform, the audience followed their journey and discovered a world of inspiration,
marketing
from
strategy.
surprising
You gotta study
recipes
it.
and
It's
tips on
incredible.
healthy nutrition to
The
enriching
stats are
life
unbelievable.
experiences. And through an interactive map, users also learned about the touching stories of real people and their daily lives. We launched Maggie Diaries with an integrated campaign featured on major portals, where it instantly became the talk of bloggers, influencers, and journalists in the region. The conversation boosted on social media between Maggie, the ambassadors, and the audience. The YouTube channel gained over 10 million views in a few weeks, becoming the second fastest growing channel in MENA with a streaming time worth of 27.5 years. Our campaign has given women new inspiration, a deeper understanding of other cultures, and, most importantly, the power to make a difference.
Close it, close it, close it. So, who says culture and values don't sell? 10 million hits, their sales went through the roof, and they opened up an entire new channel and a new marketing campaign which is now being emulated throughout the Middle East in terms of creating a journal, an online journal for women to integrate. Sustainability. What is the impact on real-time data and information, and how do you look at every touch point as being sustainable in your organization? So I'm going to give you another video. I'm doing this because this is usually a full-day program. I'm going to give you tastes of all the different elements that we're trying to do. This is
problems of the environment, society, local economies. Corporations have been blamed for viewing these concerns as threats to profit. But what if these problems weren't threats? What if they were opportunities? Not only to make the world a better place, but to increase profit. What if ignoring these opportunities put the future of your business at risk, while embracing them meant outperforming your peers? This isn't some dream, it's reality. But it requires a change of mindset, a shift away from a narrow focus on earning profits, toward a broader, long-term focus on what we call creating shared value. Creating shared value operates on 3 levels. Reconceiving products and markets in ways that meet customer needs while also contributing to society. Redefining productivity in your value chain through social or environmental innovation. And cluster development, supporting the well-being of industries related to your own in ways that improve societal conditions. These aren't just theories. Each of these approaches have been successfully demonstrated by major corporations. General Electric has developed new health imagination products to deliver high-quality, low-cost care to mothers in developing countries. Intercontinental Hotels Group has implemented Green Engage, an innovative, cost-saving online tool to help its hotels control energy consumption. And Nestle has given resource-strapped farmers in developing economies financial and technical assistance to create a better supplier network. Creating shared value is not an option. It's the future. Learn more about the future of your business at fsg.org.
I don't think this will switch. What? No. Oh, no, it doesn't. So this is a really important distinction. Creating shared value is a new concept. It's the concept, from a financial basis, is below the bottom line. You have to invest in your community to create community prosperity. Creating or corporate social responsibility, which is CSR, is a marketing promotion tool incorporating the values of a company and giving a donation to breast cancer or ecology or nutrition education or education. One is investing in sustaining the entity and the community. One is giving a donation for something above the bottom line. We're encouraging companies in the digital age and networked economy age to look at the latter. So the last element which drives this whole wonderful paradigm is this transformation. It's the business model through breakthrough innovation in the center. It's developing customer advocacy. It's scaling brands and conversations. And it's leveraged millennials' talent with executives. As I just shared with you before, this is the element which is really the critical element, how these elements interact together in a very new and dynamic fashion. One of the models which is very interesting if you want to look it up on YouTube is the digital acceleration teams initiated by Nestle again. Nestle has, for the last 6 years, they take 15 young people from around the world, train them in leadership, communication, hyperconnectivity, and digital skills. They use the current state-of-the-art digital equipment to analyze, anticipate, project, and create new messages and create new business models for Nestle. And at the same time, then they go back to their home countries, which are all around the world, and they become what? Ambassadors. They become ambassadors for digital integration and marketing. So what's the takeaway? I've all given you a little scorecard on your seats. And this is a little tool which we've developed over the last year, and it incorporates all of the values which I shared over this 30-minute presentation. So you can go through and fill it out, and you will get a little reflection of where you are as a digital leader. Then if you want to take it to your company or your team, you could have your team fill it out and see the discrepancies between why you rate yourself and how your team rates the team or yourself. The third level is, and we do this at corporations, we aggregate these things. We have corporate executives rate the company, how they rank on these leadership scales, and then compare them. When you compare them, you find that some outstanding realities of what the discrepancy is between what a company wants to do as a digital leader and what they are doing. And there's the area where the weaknesses and the anticipation goes. So that's a little treat for you as a takeaway. I'm going to give you one last takeaway, and this is a fun thing. It'll speak for itself.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Mark.
Listen, I'm concerned about the low sales. Can you find out what's causing that?
I'm reviewing the poor sales right now. It's strange.
Product data seems normal.
Right. Looking at the map right now, and sales in the central region look low. I'm drilling through the map to see what's causing the dip in regional sales. It looks like only a few stores from a single retailer are affecting the entire region.
It's strange. The product indicators look good and the causals look good too.
The product performance looks positive. Online campaign ratings, best metrics, distribution. It's got to be an in-store issue. Julia's our regional store rep. I'll give her a call and find out what's going on.
Great, thanks, Anna.
Hey, Julia. There are big drops in sales at one of our retailers that affect the performance of the entire region. The drops conflict with the product performance indicators. I think it might be a store issue. Anna, have a look at this. The shelf isn't set up according to the planogram. See, the number of facings is wrong? Right.
Well, this could hurt sales at all the stores that have the same layout.
Okay, here are the stores that have poor sales.
I know at least 7 of those stores have the same layout.
Yeah, that's probably the issue. I'll share this with the other store reps in the region. Thank you so much, Julia. Thanks.
We compared the planograms with the shelf setup, and the reason for the low sales was that the shelf setup was wrong. There weren't enough facings, so your product wasn't moving.
We consider you a partner and expect you to leverage technology to help us catch problems quickly and fix them.
Right.
What I really like to see is category sales and profit for the last 2 weeks. Let me send you the financials.
Looks like sales are recovering quickly.
I like that. This is impressive. You've got a great team, thank you. And Tom, please, give me a call tomorrow. I've got another order for you.
That was a good meeting. We got a big order.
Tom, I'm making these alerts scalable so we can be more proactive in situations like this. We have state-of-the-art monitoring, reporting, analysis, and collaboration with the new tools. Now I can anticipate patterns and do more predictive work.
Great. Proactive, predictive, better results.
Show me the sales KPI for the central region.
Loading executive KPI.
Send mail to Anna and Julia. Great job.
Message sent.
So that's a taste of the future, and it's a reflection of the present. We're, according to all my colleagues, we're about, we have that, most of that technology, right, Robert, to do that. And how you execute and integrate that into your digital marketing framework, Boris, that's your tool, right? That's where you need to go. That's cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity. Any questions or comments or? Yes.
When it comes to talking to the C-level management, who is, at least in this country, accustomed to working the usual old way.
Power-centered, authoritarian, so forth.
They're profitable. They've been working like that, as you mentioned, for years and years. Right. Now you have millennials, you have people with new creative ideas. They understand the digital and the importance of digital. How do you start a conversation between them? How do you start making them realize how this is important, how this is the way, and basically making them kind of start changing the direction?
Well, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to ask you to change one word, the word making them. We can't make anybody. We have to organically let them believe. We have faced this question globally, and we created a seminar called Digital or Death, which really looks at, if you don't digitize, you're going to become an anachronism. You're going to become a digital Darwin. You're going to become not competitive anymore. And they have to look at all the things that are happening in their industry. And we would customize something for an industry, whatever it would be, and show them where the value add is on different levels and how important it is for them to listen to not only their employees and their customers, but understand how critical the integration of women and millennial young people are, maybe women or men, into the decision-making process, because that's the future. Because the global generation is not secluded or siloed by culture. The young person in Tehran, in Dubai, in New York, they're all the same in so many of their values. You look at all the global studies. And these young people are going to run our country. So if you want to be competitive, you have to understand it, speak to them, and it's in a different way. So that's the way we approach it, in a very pragmatic way, and they have to look at their bottom line. If you want your bottom line to grow, you have to be sensitive and cater to those people you're going to be appealing to. Questions? Set? Okay, thank you.